Welcome, everybody, to BTS Live. That's Behind the Scenes Live, episode 31. Wow. I can't believe I say that every week. Mark's laughing in the background. Welcome, Mark Rogers, my co-host. Mark, how are you?
Well, Marty, I guess we know we've come a long way and been on for a little bit of while. Considering when we first talked in our first episodes, we were basically talking about the snow and being buried in the snow and how cold we were, freezing our rear ends off. And now we're basically dripping in sweat because of the humidity is like 98%.
Oh, I know. It's like it's either one extreme or the other, you know. And we got that little narrow band in the spring. And lots of times it goes, you know how it is in Connecticut. We're both in Connecticut here, for those of you that don't know. But you know how it is in Connecticut. It goes, usually winter lasts way too long. And then it goes into maybe a little sliver of spring, and then it just goes right into summer. So there's really no break.
And I'm not complaining, actually. That sounded like a complaint, but it's not a complaint because I love the summer weather. Yeah, this is a little bit much with the humidity, but I will take this any day over 20 degrees.
Oh, me too, especially now you work all kinds of weird hours, and I did that for a long time at the Worldwide Leader, and trudging through the snow in Connecticut at 1 o'clock in the morning with 6 inches or a foot and trying to dig your car out. How many times have you been there, Mark? Too many times, right?
I'm catching up to you, Marty, since I've been there for 15 years and you were there for 19. So I'm guessing you get a few dozen on me, but I'm catching up fast.
Oh man, I know, right? Jeez, I don't miss it. It's funny because I've gone through now. I just went through my second winter since I've been on my own, and winter's a lot better.
You get to look out the window and watch all those poor souls driving by, trying to trudge their way to work, and just kind of wave with your beverage of choice.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And when I go to Dunkin' Donuts, usually on the weekends, and I'm not in any kind of hurry, so I'm not trying to hit rush hour. And it's funny when I do go out in rush hour, it's like, what's all this traffic? You know, I get all spoiled because I don't have to do it anymore. So you know, anyways, enough of that. Let's get on to the main topic of the show. So today, what we're going to talk about is maximizing what you have to go live or produce recorded video. And really the genesis of the show, I was kicking around some topics this week, you know, and I sent Mark a topic earlier, and I kind of changed midstream because what I've noticed, and a lot of the audience that watches this show tend to be more on the beginner side, more people that are just getting started, that, you know, now are being introduced to video and live video, especially all these services coming out, and it's a little intimidating because you kind of think, oh man, I need all this equipment, I need what Marty has and all this fancy gear with the TriCasters and all this stuff, or our friend Stephen Haywood and his studio is like a whole network operation. And I think there's a misnomer there. I think people think they need all this stuff. And frankly, they don't. You know, we've talked about at length, and I know, Mark, we've talked about it too in our show. You know, really the first part is just getting started. That's a huge hurdle. And kind of, you know, it kind of concerns me when people think, oh man, I need all this stuff. And it almost becomes excuses. I know they really want to get going, and they really don't have to worry because most people have what they need to get started already. You know, just in their normal household items. And we're going to go through a couple things. Mark, I'm going to take the first part here, and then I'm going to toss it to you. And then I have a couple of bonus tips at the end. Maybe we're talking very basic stuff today just to get started, but then a couple bonus tips if you want to take it like step 1 and step 1A, you know, to kind of get you going.
Are we charging for this, Marty? Bonus tips at the end.
I know, right? We should charge, you know. But let's take a step back, you know, and frankly, again, there's a lot of people out there that either are doing video, that want to do video. And one of the things I see is, one, most people have what they need to get started today. 2, most people aren't maximizing what they have. That, to me, is the big one. All right, maximizing what you have. And I'm going to go through a couple items that I think people are going to recognize in order to get started. So you want to do live video, and we went in past couple of shows. We went through a bunch of the newer services that allow you to get on the air, get online live very easily. So what are some of the things you need? Well, first thing you need is a computer, and frankly, most people have a computer, a laptop, and most modern computers and most people have laptops or notebooks now. They all have a webcam built in, and this particular one, this is just a generic looking laptop. You can see on the top there, it has a webcam in there. So it has a webcam, has a built-in microphone. So there you go. So you got the camera, you got the microphone. Most people have this stuff. So, okay, so you're good there. So what else do you need? Well, you need the internet, right? So you need the modem. Most people have home internet service. And the good news is in most areas, the upstream and downstream bandwidth is plenty to get on air and also to do HD video. It's not an impediment anymore unless you live out in a real rural area or if you have satellite internet. But most people with broadband have enough. You just need, a couple of like 5 or 6 megabytes up is fine for HD, and most people have 20, 30 down at least, in most major areas. The other thing you need is a brightly lit room. No fancy lighting, nothing extravagant. Natural light is best, so a room with windows to get the light if it's during the day. If it's at night, just a couple lights in the room is fine. But the key is evenly lit and brightly lit, and the reason for that is the way that the webcams perform. They're trying to take the exposure for the whole scene. So evenness in lighting is very, very key, especially for built-in webcams. So really, that's all you need. I mean, those are the very basic things you need. And frankly, I think most people have those items, right? So what are some of the things that now you have all those items, how do you maximize it? What do you do, right? So one of the things is, and I see this a lot with people just getting started. Now, we talk about a brightly lit room, and there's a lot of windows there. This is something you want to avoid. You don't want to, and I see this all the time. Mark, I'm sure you see this too, right? You see, someone sitting right in front of the window. They're in a brightly lit room, and so they're doing that all right, but they're sitting right in front of the window. And what happens with these webcams is they have to average the whole scene. So it's going to look at the brightest part of the scene, which is usually the window, and then you're going to just go dark. So you're not going to see anything. So that person there in that shot really should turn around. So really what you want to do is you want to be facing the window in that particular shot and have the camera, in front of the window facing you. And that would solve that issue there, So the other thing I see lots of times with people online and they're using their laptops is you get this, and I don't have a picture for it, but you get this camera angle thing where you'll have it on a desk and you'll be looking down. And I know, Mark, you did a demo of it a while back. I'm not sure. Yeah, kind of like that. So I'm going to show Mark. Mark kind of doing it here where he has his laptop down there. He's looking down. So that's not necessarily the most pleased. There you go. See, that's not necessarily the most. He's going above. But normally, what will happen is the laptop will be positioned on the desk, and you'll be looking down. Now, right now, our cameras are positioned the right way. So Mark's using a webcam. He's got it right at eye level, and I'm using a regular camcorder, and I got it right about eye level, slightly above. This is where you really want to be. So if you look on TV, that's how they're positioning the cameras, right at eye level, a little above. But many times what you end up seeing is people looking down their laptops, and you look up, and it's just not a pleasing angle at all. So say if you just have a laptop, what do you do? How do you avoid that? Well, one of the ways you can do it, very simple tip, is you just get a bunch of books. You don't need a tripod. just get a bunch of books, and the laptops, the bottoms are flat, so you just pile up a bunch of books up there, raise it up to about eye level, and you're set. And it's funny because I don't really see a lot of people doing this. I see, and folks watching this show, next time you're watching live online video, especially the video chats or people that are new to it, 9 times out of 10, what they're going to do is they're going to be on a laptop and they're going to be looking down. You'll see that weird angle. So this is one way to alleviate that. If you just have the built-in webcam, just prop up your laptop on some books and get it up high. One other tip is if you have, an additional USB connector on your laptop, what you might want to do is you can always get a USB keyboard and mouse, put the laptop up in front of you, and then if you're still on the laptop, say if you're on a video chat service and you're doing screen sharing or whatever, you need control of the computer, you can always use a Bluetooth keyboard. You can use wired keyboard, put it in there, put the keyboard and the mouse closer to you. That way you're not disturbing the laptop up on the books because it can kind of get a little shaky up there. But at least you're going to have the camera right at eye level. So that's really important there. The other thing I'm going to point out is the other addition is with the broadband. Now, a lot of people use Wi-Fi. They're either on their phone, and you hear this all the time. Oh, I got great Wi-Fi. I got 300 down and 30 up and this and that. And you can have the best Wi-Fi in the world, but if you get a little interference on that radio signal, in fact, you can be in the same room. I have my router here when I'm doing a show in the same room, but all my computers, everything connected to the internet is hardwired, and I actually turn the Wi-Fi off on all the computers. So in essence, for my setup, I have Mark coming in on a dedicated Skype computer that's wired to my router. I actually had to get an additional switch, a router switch, to have more outputs. But I turn the Wi-Fi radio off, and the reason I do that is to eliminate any kind of conflict between the two, which is very, very important. And I ran into that before the other week where it was conflicting. The Wi-Fi and the wired were kind of fighting, and I was getting a little buffering. So you turn that off, wire everything. The TriCaster, which is streaming the show out, that's wired. The computer that I am using, hopefully for the chat room, which I can't seem to sign into. Oh, there it is. It actually now I can see the chat room, which is good. That is hardwired as well. So I hardwired everything. And the thing that I want to make you aware of is I'm not sure if people have seen this. In the age of Wi-Fi, I'm not sure if there are people in here, watching this show or out there that know what an Ethernet cable is. It's a very inexpensive accessory that allow you to hardwire your computers from your router. So hopefully everybody is using a router out there in addition to your modem. Many of the cable companies provide a router. I always use an outboard router, but you should have a router, and all routers have multiple connections for Ethernet. And the wired connection is going to eliminate any kind of radio interference. It's really the only way to go for video. And Wi-Fi is fine if you're just surfing the internet and doing your email or browsing or even watching videos, because the buffering doesn't really matter. But especially when you're uploading live video, everything has to travel in order. So especially on services, WebRTC services, like Blab, like Huzzah, like FireTalk, most of the services use WebRTC, and they're very real time. And in order to be real time, you have to have really good transmission. So lots of times what you see is when people have those buffering issues, they're on Wi-Fi and they're having interference. It could be bandwidth issues, but they're having interference many times. So,
hey, Marty?
Yes.
I'll jump in with a quick question here, because we've done some troubleshooting at my place, either over the phone or the one house call that Marty made to try to clean up my operation. So can you outline the differences between plugging directly into the modem, hardwiring into the modem, versus the router?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a big one there. So I'm sure there are people out there that are hardwired right to their modem, and that's not a good idea, because what the router provides, besides multiple outputs and managing your connections. So most people have more than one device that connects to the internet, even wired. So for me, I actually had to get an additional switch because I had so many things plugged in. And I'm sure Stephen Haywood has a ridiculous network. He needs a whole network closet, but that's another story. That's another show. But the reason why you'd want a router on top of giving you additional outputs is basically a hardware firewall. So it's going to give you some degree of protection as far as who has access to your ports on your computer. There's multiple ports, and I'm no network expert at all. This is not an area of mine. I don't have a lot of knowledge in the area. All I know is the router is very important, and it gives you some protection from a hardware. What's the word? Anyways, it gives you some. I lost my train of thought there. It gives you some protection in addition to outputs. So it's highly, highly recommended that you do get a router. I'm using an Apple router, but almost any router will do. And keep it updated, the firmware updated. The firewalls, thank you, Alfredo. That's the word I was looking for. It has a built-in firewall, so that's very, very important. Versus just connecting directly up to the open internet. That's not necessarily a good idea because you have a lot of people out there, sniffers, and you'd be surprised how many different systems out there are looking for holes. So I think that's a very, very important thing. So the router is very, very, very important. So we'll take you up to this point. So most people have all those items. Maybe the Ethernet connection or the Ethernet cable, maybe not everyone has, but that's very, very important. And I appreciate everyone in the chat room looking for Peaches Joe's, but you got the wrong show. You got the wrong show. I need a mid-roll commercial, Mark, because everyone's looking for Peaches Joe's. You don't know the whole Peaches Joe's commercial saga on Steven's show, but it's great, and it's got cult status. This Pizza Joe's commercial.
It apparently does.
So anyways, Mark, I'm going to hand it off to you. Why don't you get into some of the quick tips that anybody can do and be aware of, especially for the beginners out there that are just getting started, to kind of bump up the quality and some of the key things that they want to remember when they're on camera.
Well, I think one of the things that you're hitting on, just to kind of summarize what that is obviously just getting the content transmitted to the consumer is all there is. And if you can't accomplish that, then you've got nothing. But even maximizing what you've got in regards to what you laid out in terms of just everyday household lighting and everything else that you discussed, because the interference between you and the viewer, the consumer, is key. Because you could have the best content, and even if it's okay, even if they can make it out or they can see you, but it's not clean. If the audio is not clean, if the video is not clear, then it's a distraction, and they're going to be distracted from the message. So let's start there and take that into consideration first. So when you're looking at how you want to build your brand, build your content, communicate to your audience, take a step back for a second and just think about what you bring to the table as an individual. As a communicator, really, who are you? And what do you want to convey? Do you want to convey entertainment? Are you looking to entertain people, make people laugh? Is it of that nature of content? Or is it very informational? So take that into consideration. Take into consideration your strengths and weaknesses as a communicator and how you want to be perceived. Do you want to be perceived, again, as entertaining and funny? Do you want to be perceived as knowledgeable, as credible in what you do? And you need to be thinking about those things because they're going to really play into how you're going to approach your content and how you want to address the audience. So really the first thing is obviously the content and organizing your thoughts. So understand that most likely you are so involved in your subject and so passionate about it that you could ramble on about it forever. Most of your consumers, maybe not quite as passionate, maybe a few, but you want to be concise. You want to think through your topic. You want to think through and organize your thoughts, come up with bullet points. And whether you write those down or you are able to just capture those in your head and methodically run through bullet points that are going to proceed in a logical manner.
And can I just interject real quick here, Mark?
Yep.
And you're saying, talk about things you're passionate about and everything. And I think that sometimes people think that maybe their area of passion is too narrow. And I would beg to differ. I remember when you were starting your YouTube channel, and we had this discussion where you're a sports guy, and the discussion was, well, how narrow do I get? I mean, really your passion is college football and then some MLB. But we had this discussion going back and forth. I mean, as far as the kind of the concern of, man, is college football or even maybe just a league? I mean, you're a Big Ten guy, is that enough? Is that broad enough to attract any kind of audience? And I think what people are going to find out, especially because it's online and it's worldwide, there's an audience for everything. I mean, it's amazing, and I would recommend, niche down. I mean, we talked about that, and then you're kind of more into the college football area, and it's a year-round thing, and there's plenty to talk about, and there's a very fervent, fan base there as far as that's what they're into. So it could be, knitting, it could be pottery making, it could be niches of that. And, I just think that don't necessarily be afraid of niching down too far, I would think.
And I think that's something that possibly hurts me. The way I've attacked it, I'm not backing down at this point, but just tackling major college football in general. We've even talked about, as you just mentioned, selecting a conference and really attacking that conference. Or you could take on a particular team and have no problem if you really know that team and really pursue other broadcasters and bloggers who follow that team and cover that team. You could focus a channel, a website on one team. Obviously, it's done all over the place. I cover major college football, and maybe that's where, to a certain extent, I lose some people because maybe they love my content that I produced on Georgia football, but I don't get back around to Georgia football for a month, and maybe I lose them. So that could be argued, but I'm not letting go of my quest to be the king of college football.
And that's a great point, Mark, you make as far in the college football realm, because in that particular niche, it gets pretty crazy. I mean, all these teams, all the major teams, all have fan bases, all have bloggers, well known and heavily trafficked blogs. They're doing video. They got very fervent fan bases, and they're just all about one team. So you raise a good point, and that's just college football. So you can imagine these other areas. So I'm always a fan of, niche down to where you're at, and you'll find that audience.
Now, Marty, I've come across some people that are passionate or appear to be passionate about what they like, but maybe the knowledge doesn't follow. So think about this. You're not talking to your best buddy on the phone about your particular topic or subject. You are opening yourself up to a worldwide audience, potentially, and you're going to be criticized. These people are not your friends. They're not your family. They are going to listen and watch with a critical ear. And there are some mean folks out there. And regardless of how capable and competent you are, you're going to get attacked. So keep that in mind. But you want to keep that to a minimum because you know your topic and you have near expert knowledge. I hesitate to use the term expert, but you have sufficient credible knowledge of your topic to go forward and to be able to be challenged and to be able to provide the substance. Okay, next thing is people that are perceived to be confident are liked, they are followed. You need to appear to be confident. And one of the big reasons you do that, or that you're able to accomplish that, is through practice and repetition. So most of us don't jump on the internet. I might be somewhat of an exception with a background in delivering on camera. So most of us didn't get there at that point. So practice. It seems mundane. It seems ridiculous to practice when you're actually not taping, but you need to do that.
And I would also say this, and I've seen people do this or talk about this, and they're getting into producing live video and recording it for playback later, and they're saying, "Oh, I never want to watch myself. Oh, I never watch myself." And I think that's, while it's a little bit disconcerting at first to watch yourself, certainly because you're picking out all your flaws. I would say that's a big mistake, especially if you want to get better. You have to watch yourself, not to necessarily pick on every little flaw, but you have to kind of pick out the areas that you want to attack and improve. You know, like you said, Mark, you've done this professionally. You know, you've done this for years. People are looking at the end goal here, kind of the end result, especially watching someone like yourself. People are just getting started. It takes practice, it takes skill, it takes experience. And I think watching yourself is huge, you know, and again, not to pick on little things, but just to maybe pick on an area. Maybe pacing is something you need to improve, or maybe the crutch words, the ums and all that. So you can pick on that and at least look at that and try to attack it.
And if you really think you're going to be that overly self-critical, then have somebody else watch it. Now, be careful of who that person's going to be, but at the same time, somebody that you trust, somebody who's going to be level-headed and provide a measure of criticism, constructive criticism, but also going to build you up. I don't think most people need to do that.
Yep.
Just watch yourself and understand, hey, cut yourself a break, cut yourself some slack. It's not going to be great the first week. It's not going to be great the first month or the first year, probably. Just understand where you are and then take that most apparent flaw or issue that you have, whether it's with eye contact with the camera, whether it's with the ums and the words to fill the gaps that Marty alluded to just a second ago. Take the most obvious flaw or issue and tackle that first. You're not going to be Tom Brokaw overnight, so don't try to clean it all up at once. Take the worst flaw, work on that, and then you're going to erase that over probably a small period of time. If you're producing plenty of content, you're going to get that out of the way, and then that's going to be a given. You've got that tackled, and you move on to the next item.
Yeah, and I would say this, that's part of the fun of doing this. I know a lot of people probably don't think it's fun. They all want to get to the finish line right away. But, you know, enjoy the journey along the way, you know. So Mark's talking about all the on-camera stuff and the practice and the stuff that people don't see. You know, I could tell you stories even about this show, about, you know, the technical setup and running through all these different things and the trial and tribulations. And I have experience, and it's still hard, you know. But you don't stop. You keep improving, and you shoot for, you know, it's funny. I've heard people say, you know, don't shoot for perfection, but I beg to differ. I say shoot for the stars. Shoot for as perfect as you can get. So anyways, obviously there's a little malfunction, and my TriCaster locked up. So that's why you see a little jump there. So we're back on the air. Let me go back to the chat room here. Stand by. I'm not going to go back on Facebook, obviously. I'll post the completed show, the edited show on Facebook later. But that can happen. So just so you guys know, apparently my TriCaster, which is basically a computer, just locked up. So not much I can do other than reboot it and start again. So I'm glad we're back. I'm going to let Mark finish up, and then we'll do some promos, and then we'll talk about what we got on next week. So yeah, I don't know if it was necessarily the heat, because the computer wasn't all that hot, so I don't know what happened to it. But anyways, I opened the window as well, so get some air in here. Okay. So Mark, you were saying before we were rudely interrupted by the TriCaster locking up.
That TriCaster, I know,
right?
It.
So there you go. So Mark, anyways, where were we?
Yeah, I'll finish up with a few points here. We were talking about, what were we talking about? Let's talk about this. Basically, you need to develop your own style. So when I say that, a lot of people see professionals on TV and try to copy them. You need to go with, after watching yourself, which Marty and I just talked about, A lot of people don't like how they sound. They don't like how they look. They don't like their expressions. Okay, that's who you are. Several weeks ago, we had Cam Underwood on, who is a voice teacher at the University of Miami. Had him on talking about maximizing your breath and the depth of your voice and your diaphragm. So go back, check that out. So you want to take your voice and you want to maximize it. So you don't want to copy somebody else, but you don't want to be so relaxed and not be your best. So you want to produce your best self, your best voice, your best delivery, your best content possible. So develop your own style, Keep in mind that even though we're talking about topics and subjects and delivering verbally, that 80 to 90% of the communication that's received by your audience is nonverbal.
Yep.
So that's when we talk about confidence, appropriate gesturing, facial expressions. You want to look out for all that sort of thing. You want to have a delivery that's consistent with your topic and your subject matter. So look out for that sort of stuff, the body language and the facial expressions itself. Again, as we talked about, watch yourself, have others watch you if needed. And then the last thing I'll touch upon is your pacing. A lot of people are uncomfortable with pauses, but pauses are there for a reason. They serve to emphasize certain points. Switch up your pacing. You need to emphasize certain points. So if you're producing a 10-minute video, unfortunately, your audience isn't going to hang on every word. They're not going to catch all of it. So if you've got 3 main points and you know that these are the 3 most important points that I'm delivering, those are the ones that you want to punch up, you want to emphasize, you want to deliver with a little bit more passion, a little bit more of a verbose manner.
Yep.
Let's use that word. And silence.
Verbose, I like that. That's a big word.
Silence can be good. Silence can help you out. It can help emphasize what you want to emphasize. And so don't be afraid to pause. And if you lose your train of thought, don't be afraid to give it a second, catch your breath, let your mind catch up with your words, and proceed.
You know, one of the things that was really difficult for me when I first started doing this video stuff is like you said, pausing and slowing down my speech. Because I notice a lot of people, either when they get nervous or when they're just starting out, they talk way too fast, and they almost like they have to get it all out. And if you just take your time and practice your pacing, slowing it, and that's hard. Because these pauses, you feel like you feel something in there. So I'm kind of doing it now. I'm kind of deliberately doing it now where I'm slowing it down. I still have to practice it a lot and practice your breathing where you're taking in the breaths at the right time. And just slow it down. You know, people watching, if they're interested, they'll appreciate that. It's a little easier to listen to when you're slow down your pacing and your speech. And it gives you time to gather your thoughts too, really. And it's almost like, think of it as like having a little conversation with everybody, you know, especially this live stuff. I mean, you know, really, and especially with the chat room, which is great. This setup is fantastic for that, where it's kind of very intimate, where you're just talking to one person. Think of it that way, where you're just having this conversation, casual conversation, and slow it down. And for me, that was a huge deal, certainly. And Catherine is saying, pause is a great way to get people to look. All they do is see that the screen is frozen. That's true. See, it happened to us. We paused the whole show. TriCaster paused it for us.
That caught people's attention.
Exactly. So I want to cover a couple of additional items. So we went through both behind the camera and in front of the camera, certain key tips. And again, maximizing what you have. So you have the computer, you have the internet, make sure you're wired, make sure you get that laptop up so you get that camera right at eye level. But I'm going to go into a couple other things, and one of them is audio, and that's a big one. And frankly, the audio part is something, if you just have the laptop, that could suffer because the microphones that are built into laptops aren't really all that good, and you get that very hollow sound. But fear not, I have a solution for you guys. And for those of you who have watched this show or watched other shows like it, Steven's show, you've seen this microphone, the Audio-Technica ATR 2100. And the reason why we talk about this mic is it's easy. It's plug and play, USB. Very, very easy to operate. And you'll notice on the bottom there, it's got multiple connectors. And the first one you want to be aware of is this one right here, the USB connector. And what's great about this microphone is it's really a microphone and sound card all in one. And on the other side of the USB, I don't have an arrow pointing to it, the round hole there, that's an earphone jack. So in essence, what this microphone is, it's a mic and sound card all in one, and it's plug and play. It works with any computer. And the other really great benefit and a couple great benefits. One, it's fairly inexpensive. I've seen it on sale for as low as $35, and it's gotten so popular among podcasters that I think the normal price used to be $50. I think now it's up to $79. Even at that price, it's still a bargain. And it's relatively small, easy to travel with if you go traveling. But one of the best parts is it's a dynamic microphone. What does that mean? It's also cardioid. What does that mean? Well, it means that it's not going to pick up a lot of room noise. And so it's a great sounding mic for that reason. So you don't have to be in a studio. It's plug and play. Doesn't pick up a lot of room noise. Knight Rider's saying it's $62. The C920, in fact, Walter is anticipating where I'm going next. But anyways, this microphone, plug and play, sounds great. I'm on a Heil PR40. The mic I'm using here is a $350 microphone, $325. And it sounds great. I love this microphone. But for $79, this microphone here, the Audio-Technica ATR 2100, it sounds almost as good, especially on online video, live video, especially WebRTC services and things. And again, it just isolates all the room noise, works with most types of voices, works on the road, works in noisy environments, really, really good for that because it just rejects all the noise, and it's just so easy to use. So that's one. And I told you about the jack. So the other bonus is not only does it have the USB jack, it also has what's called an XLR jack as well. So many of you might start out using this microphone as USB only, and then down the road you want to get a mixer and go analog. So this mic, you don't have to throw away this mic. This mic will work with a regular audio mixer. So that's another good thing. So it's very versatile. The other thing I want to make you aware of is if you do want to upgrade your video, we talked about this, the Logitech C920, and the reason I mention it is many of the webcams built in to computers, while they say they're HD, they're just not, they don't really give you all that great resolution. And I think Tech Junk put it in the chat. Well, no, I think Walter maybe put it in chat. $62 on Amazon, the C920. It's been out for a while. Great camera, HD quality, 1080p. And for the money, it's fantastic. Nice wide angle on the lens. And so it's a really good camera, really good upgrade. It'll pop right on top of your existing laptop. And it just gives you that really clear shot. If you watch video that compares a Logitech C920, let's say, with a built-in webcam, you'll definitely see the difference. The other thing I will mention is this C920 has a tripod mount, and so you could even get a tripod, a little tabletop tripod to go along with it. So you don't have to have it on your computer. You can actually have it away from your computer and kind of position anywhere you want. So that's an advantage of going with an outboard webcam, and you can position it anywhere you want. So Mark, I think that kind of puts a bow on it, even with our delay. I don't know if you have any last words before I get into a couple of housekeeping promotional items.
I really don't, except to encourage anybody who's watching us for the first time or even the fifth time to go back to the beginning, because we cover a ton of content and a ton of advice and tips and techniques, and had a number of really good guests to cover the social media aspect, the broadcasting aspect. Derek Chrysler, one of our former colleagues, covering the technical aspect with Marty, was a great show as well. So a lot of good archives that we're building up at this point after 31 shows.
Excellent. And we do have plans to have more people on, like you said, Mark, both on-air folks we're working on, maybe even some control rooms people, maybe a director or whatever, work on that. And then certainly some technical folks. There are some companies I'm working with. I'd like to get some of those folks on, some of the tools that we use, and get some of those folks on. But Joycaster being one, get those folks on, and even the QuickLink guys, the Skype guys that make Skype TX boxes. So things like that. So that's some sort of what you have to look forward to in coming weeks. I will say we'll be back next week. I don't anticipate any issues there. Next Thursday in August, and I had to talk to Mark about this offline. I do have some projects coming up that may take me out on the road, so that might upset the schedule for August, all of August. So I'll give you more information there. But the reason I bring that up is I encourage everybody to, I just got to get the right lower third up, that would help, to not only watch our show on btslive.com. When we're not live, we're playing the replays. We treat it just like a regular network of shows. So we run the last 4, 5, 6 shows. And again, inspired by Stephen Haywood, he does the same thing. So I take a page out of his book. I do the same thing. The other link there, the bit.ly link, is to our email list. And the reason I mention that is we certainly have our Facebook group, but I invite you, if you haven't already, sign up for the email list. I will not spam you. In fact, I send out very limited email. I haven't sent out anything at all yet. And that's really just to make sure that we have contact with our community. So as schedules change and as different events and we might have to move shows around, or if we have special guests, I'm able to at least get a hold of you and make sure that you guys know what's going on with the network. And hopefully we can do some special things, maybe just for the email subscribers as well. So bit.ly/BTS email, it will get you on the list. And again, I promise not to spam you. Also invite you guys to join the Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/BTS Live Show. And if you go on Facebook and just search BTS Live Show, you'll find it. It is a closed group, but everyone's welcome to join if you haven't already, and we'll get you in there. We have great moderators in there. Walter, who's in the chat, is a moderator. Steven's a moderator. Brad is a moderator, as well as Mark and myself. Great community in there. Great discussion. Just a lot of geeky stuff, video stuff, and just a great group of people in there. So I certainly invite you to be part of that. Mark, I'm going to give you a promo here. Your YouTube channel, youtube.com/MarkRogersTV. For all your videos, and I know you were just on with Macy doing the Mark and Macy show that precedes this show. Anything that you want to promote going forward with your channel?
Okay, so I've taken on a project to cover every position in college football, all about 65 Power 5 conference teams. So I'm working my way through that, just doing everything imaginable to prep the 2016 college football season. I can't even count how many videos we produced in the last month to 6 weeks, covering every angle, top 10 lists of positional units across the country, top 5 lists per conference of every position. SEC Media Days just concluded earlier this afternoon. A bunch of content there in a venture that I've got with the 3 other guys called SEC Breakdown. You can catch us on Twitter if you enjoy SEC football. It's SEC Breakdown. We also produce a podcast on Wednesday nights. So we're seeing some good effects of that. Subscribers up, views up, all that, downloads up on the audio podcast. Everything looks good.
Excellent. And it's a slow and steady pace. I mean, it takes, and we've had this discussion, it takes time, but you're seeing the growth, right?
So I'll throw this number out. So for content creators who feel as though you're not getting any headway. Take June, for example. I compared this past June, 2016 versus 15. So 2015 June, 10,000 views. This June that just concluded, 25,000 views.
Wow. That's good. There you go.
Yeah, that's a good little bump.
And again, you've been doing it for a number of years now, so now you have some history, and now you can see the progress. Because I know in the beginning we talked in the early years, it's like, oh man, I'm not seeing any. What's going on here? I'm not seeing any growth, or what's going on. And again, it takes a while. It's almost like pushing a boulder uphill. It takes a while to get momentum, but once you get it, it starts going on its own a little bit. So, which is good. Anyways, want to also make you aware of the techbuzz.net, Stephen Haywood's channel. He is terrific. He is the inspiration for a lot of what we do here. I'm frequently a guest on his show or his shows, and he's just terrific. Techbuzz.net. He has 2 shows. Monday, the weekly roundup, which is a roundup of tech news, Mondays at 6 p.m. Eastern, unless he's gone fishing. And then Tuesday, Broadcast Now, which I'm a regular co-host on. 6 p.m. Tuesdays, we talk hardcore broadcasting, equipment, technique, all kinds of stuff there, along with Mike Myers on both shows. Keith Barrett is also a co-host on the Weekly Roundup. Great channels, great shows there. I do also want to mention another community member, Ross Brand, and his network, Livestream Universe. He's doing some wonderful things. I remember when he first started out, it was he does a lot of work, and he's making great progress. He does a whole series of shows, uses multiple platforms, so he's really kind of leveraging a lot of this live streaming, these platforms in various creative ways. He's learning Wirecast. He's doing all kinds of great things there. Ross Brand, Livestream University. Definitely want to check him out. So, Mark, I think that'll do it for another edition of BTS Live. In the books, a little rough. We had our TriCaster freeze up on us, hot weather and all that stuff. But what are you going to do? We just rebooted and we go. So people watching the replay, they're not going to see it because I'm going to edit that part out. I'm just going to bring the 2 pieces together. That's the beauty about being able to record locally. You don't mess it up. So, anyways, Mark, we will see you next week. Everyone will be back next Thursday night. This seems to be a good time for us. We'll keep everybody abreast, of the times. Right now, next week we'll be back. We'll see about August. There may be some show changes there. But again, we'll keep everybody apprised there. Mark, it's been a pleasure as always.
Definitely, Marty. We made it through.
Absolutely.
So it's going to look pretty after the post-production.
Yeah, as they say, fix it in post, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. We will see you next week for another edition of BTS Live. This is Marty Patton signing off. See you guys later.